last week, German Parliament legalised same-sex marriage. Whoop, whoop. And now it's been given the green light by the upper house.
Yes, but now is where the problem will start. Because it was never a question whether I would go for the upper house, because the upper house is currently controlled by the Labour side of the German political spectrum, and they were always pushing for it. So it was very clear it would pass the upper house without any issues after it cleared Parliament. But now it's with the president, and the problem the president has, he basically has to sign the bill as long as he doesn't think it could be non-constitutional. Yeah, if he deems it non-constitutional, he can't sign it. Now, there have been several court cases in front of the German Constitutional Court over the last number of years, where the court defined several times that marriage, which is protected by the German Constitution, even though the Constitution doesn't say it clearly or doesn't state it, but they said that in their interpretation of the Constitution, it's protecting the marriage between a man and a woman. And this is the entire legal discussion now, whether the president can sign it, or even if he signs it, then somebody might try to actually get a case in front of the Constitutional Court to get it potentially overturned.
And this is the thing that's so sad about this, is that we've obviously, Germany has had civil partnerships for a number of years now.
Yes.
But the two things that you don't have is in Germany you don't have marriage equality.
No.
And as a result of that, because of the way German law has been set up, you also can't adopt.
Exactly, because in Germany, to be able to adopt as a couple, you have to be married.
You have to be married. Whereas in comparison to the way the UK law worked, when civil partnerships were allowed in the UK, there was no restriction on adoption, and so people were allowed or had the option to adopt.
The interesting piece to it is, I think it's quite likely that the president will sign a bill and simply, in inverted commas, risk it, because there's no risk on his side, as the Constitution doesn't specifically say marriage is between a man and a woman.
But this is about the legal interpretation at the end of the day.
But then, so the interesting piece now is the way how the German Constitutional Court works is, as an individual, you can just appeal to the court if you, as an individual, but only you as an individual, are discriminated against in terms of your constitutional rights. But here we talk about larger groups. So if it's about larger groups, then you can't, as an individual, then either a parliamentary majority could ask the Constitutional Court to look into the matter, or one of the 16 German states could, ask the Constitutional Court look into it. Considering we have a general election coming up in September, I actually think neither of the two scenarios are likely to happen.
I think that it would be such a shame to get to this point and have such a massive hurdle that was so insurmountable, and then it all just fell back. It sort of falls by the way, because now you've got quite a lot of people being very hopeful about being able to do something that they perhaps have waited for a very, very long time to be able to do, they're having that right to do it is important for a lot of people. And so I hope that we don't have a situation where in a few months' time we're having this discussion and saying that actually the worst case scenario has happened and it is being opposed, and there's a massive lengthy legal challenge to have to go through before finally getting the outcome that we hope. I mean, I think that I do think that it will happen. I do think that marriage equality will happen in Germany. It's just about the timing and when.
I'm actually in two minds, because let's just say he signs it, and neither, and looking where the political agenda is at the moment in Germany in terms of the general election, I don't think that any of the two options of, appealing to the court will be triggered. That might mean that massive people are getting married on the basis of that bill. but then maybe 2 years later, somebody forms some sort of majority to appeal to the Constitutional Court. So,
and then puts those people's marriage status in jeopardy.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure what I think, but maybe it actually would be better if the Constitutional Court once for all clarifies that. But I think the entire discussion of why marriage wasn't legalized and why we had civil partnerships with some similar rights but not all the rights, mainly stems from two topics: religion and adoption. And adoption is a very, very emotional topic in this regard. You know, when you read the public debate, you know, I think there are lots of learning points to be made in Germany if you would compare that, you know, to other European countries, including the UK. And I think Angela Merkel was stating in that very famous panel discussion, which triggered the entire, suddenly the speed up of the process, that she met a lesbian couple who have adopted, and that meeting made her change her opinion on same-sex couples adopting children. And then obviously the German Labour Party seized the opportunity and put that law on the agenda of the next parliamentary meeting. And that's something really easy to do in Germany, because we don't have something like a Queen's speech where that has to be on. You just can simply put a motion to vote in Parliament. But then I think for her personally, I think what many people might not actually know, Angela Merkel is a very, very religious person, and she comes from a very religious family background. So I think for her, the marriage itself, that's at least how I would see it, is something, you know, sacred, which she most probably looks more from a religious point of view.
But I just can't get, I really can't get my head around this whole thing around, you know, when religion claims things like marriage and, you know, claims it as sacred and all these sort of things, I find it incredibly difficult to just accept and say, oh, that's their way of thinking, because you know what? This is, like I said earlier, this is something that's been around for centuries before religion, you know, sort of evolved and became, you know, a part of, you know, society in the way it is today. And, you know, to claim it as being part of religion and saying this is where it originated from is madness, because it isn't true. That's number one. And number two, I don't see how allowing other people to have equal rights in any way or shape or form infringes on your rights.
Absolutely, but coming back to Angela Merkel, what I really respect about her is really 2 points. Is A, that she has the greatness to accept that she's changing an opinion on something quite major, you know, in terms of same-sex couples adopting children, where she had a very different view for many years. So for her to accept that you know, she learned something, and that, you know, she feels very different about it. And then also with her background and also the background of her party, to then, as a consequence of that, to remove the whip on that vote, knowingly, if she does that, the motion will definitely pass Parliament, because it was very clear it would pass Parliament, and I'm sure she was extremely aware that would happen. That is basically saying, you know, I still have my views, and they are my views, and I'm not changing that anymore. But if society has moved on and has changed, and wants that change to happen, I will allow it to happen. And I think that really, shows that she is most probably a great leader.
I do give her the credit that she deserves in relation to being able to take that step back and put her views to one side, and to not, to not be a blockade to progress and to equality. And I say, for me, I think it's enough that she's done that. And I think people can have their views or have their opinions, but as long as you are doing that in the context of understanding times have changed, there are bigger views than yours, and you shouldn't try to impose those on other people, or it shouldn't be, your views shouldn't stop other people from having the rights that they're entitled to. And if she can recognize that, which she has done, and she's clearly not, she's changed totally changed her approach. And hats off to her for doing that.
Absolutely. And look, lots of people, especially in the opposition in Germany, argue that the real reason why she did that is the general election, coming up later this year.
Probably true.
I'm actually, if it wasn't Angela Merkel, I most probably would incline to agree. But then, Angela Merkel has been a chancellor now for a long time, and throughout that period, she has proven again and again and again that she will stick to her opinion regardless of public opinion. The refugee crisis is the perfect example. She stuck to her opinion that we need to help those poor people, totally ignoring dwindling approval rates, major crisis in government. So I seriously believe that is something she just did because she genuinely felt that it's the right thing to do, not because there is a general election coming.